today's agenda. So introductions, I'll talk about like the products from Anthropic. I'll kind of go code, do like some live demoing, and like we already have like a pretty good audience of people that know what they're doing. So usually what I say is like getting that light bulb to go off, but I think we have a lot of other bulbs that are already bright this room. So co-work. So I had Claude put together this really cool chart. What you can't really see on the left line is like level of intelligence and context window. So what all is making this possible is release smarter models with bigger context windows. You can see Claude Code hits 1 billion in November, but there was this whole kind of audience that wasn't technical enough to use Claude Code, so they came out with Code. And then they came out with Claude Opus and Sonnet, and the usage has, at least on AWS, that's been like 2 or 3x in the last 6 months. So just found out like a huge explosion of usage of the models. So let's talk about what I was like, what's a good metaphor for like these suite of products? Because they're all pretty different. And kind of what I came up with was like, on Chad, I think it was my CEO. Like he's good at doing research, like he's smart, but he doesn't really do work. So like I still go to Claude for like general questions, deep research. And co-work, I think of like the CEO. He's like still kind of the CEO and it's very strategic, but then can actually take actions. And then Claude Code is like the 10x CTO that can do anything. So that's kind of like my working model. Like when I think about like when you use co-work and Claude Code, it's like simple tasks. Like if you need to send an email, like the built-in MCP connector to email, like it's really easy to just be like, draft an email and put it in my drafts and then you can go send it. So like, I like just like think about these things like simple and then complex tasks. So user persona, there's a lot of stuff on here, but really what it comes down to, if you're not technical, just use Claude Code, right? Like try to use it, and if it doesn't work, then you can kind of move on to Claude Code, because Claude Code requires you to be like comfortable in a CLI in a terminal. So if you're not really comfortable with code and don't know what VS Code is, like just start with Claude Code, and then move on to, or start with co-work and move on to Claude Code. I made this really cool button right here that says, what about OpenClaw? So I was at NVIDIA's conference last week, and I thought it was just like something on my Instagram and Twitter that was like, OpenClaw, but like, I kind of realized that like the people at NVIDIA and the people at Google, like everyone was kind of talking about OpenClaw, but I think I had like not a harsh view on OpenClaw, like, but what Anthropic has done is come out with features like scheduled tasks, cron jobs, to kind of give you that same experience of building agent teams, and you can like essentially orchestrate on your phone now. So like I think a lot of people, like at least for me, even like knowing this stuff really well, it's like a little bit overwhelming, like hearing about this new thing and this new use case for OpenClaw. And like I have OpenClaw on my phone, but like it takes so much time to get going and tune to your use case. If you have time, it's fun to play with, but like basically Anthropic's tools have all those same capabilities now. So just like if you haven't tried it, I wouldn't necessarily recommend against it, but like just have a whole Sunday to do that. But bottom line here is that Claude Code kind of has all these capabilities built in now, or co-work too. So I've been talking a bunch of conjecture. Next, I'll kind of take you through how I used co-work and kind of my experience. Again, like I'm a Claude Code power user, so I actually haven't used Claude Code in like a few months, co-work for a few months. So I actually like went back through and kind of learned it. So I'm gonna kind of like take you guys through that journey with me. But yeah, like any questions before I jump in, specifically around this, right? Like chat versus co-work or Claude Code.
Yeah, I've been playing around with chat and co-work, and I feel like chat creates potentially better and faster Word documents. So I can feel like really when actually it seems like the co-work it just takes a lot more time and needs to be very important.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why this like metaphor works so well. It's like if you think about a CEO, Like he's really well polished. He can put together a research report. He can like draft a good email, but like he's not going to take any action. So like I very often start in chat, even if it's like to create the initial markdown file, and then save it to a folder and then start using it with a Claude Code or Coder. Just because it's a lot more time efficient and like unless it's like a big process, like like chat can just one shot a really good markdown file, and I can like dump in a few documents. So like for speed and small tasks, yeah, just use Claude Chat, and then if you need to take an action, you can just download that markdown file and put it in a folder and you can actually go.
Not yet. So is the best way to describe it is for some of the that has like plan mode and then kind of execute the plan mode that actually generates the markdown that it's talking about. So you can actually get everything all just right. So it has the full context right. So it's kind of like that where you kind of see what the website you generate all that. And then Cowork does the thing. Because Cowork is kind of, I'd say, Cowork is Claude Code with R, just I would say around it, specialized.
Yeah, like Cowork is basically Claude Code with it's almost like a little bubble boy. So it has like all the same capabilities, but it's in like a separate virtual environment. So the way within which Claude Code can interact with your computer via the command line is much more pervasive versus like there's no customizability in Cowork. And an example of that is like as part of this exercise, like I'm going to create a website and try to host it. I tried to like go into the settings.json file and like put in an MCP server for GitHub and like do OAuth tokens and like honestly spend more time on that than actually creating this presentation. It's just like pretty rigid with what it can do. Eventually it'll come with more connectors to Gmail. It already has Gmail, but like all the different stuff you want connections to, eventually that will be native. But if like you're looking for the most amount of control and like customizability, then it's but I would say for like 90% of the use cases, like we're working kind of do the same things on code, except for like heavy duty. Any other questions about any of the stuff I presented? What I do?
I don't have a question, but a comment. Well, I don't use Cowork, but I use the chat to start stuff, and I find it faster than using Cowork just because you don't have that native stuff there. So, like in chat, you could add a file MCP and other MCPs to actually do all of that stuff, whereas Cowork is very limited and like won't do that.
Yeah, and like I'm kind of doing Anthropic's job right now, like giving them feedback on like, hey, everyone's kind of confused like what to use because like this can kind of do everything and it's fast, but then this is kind of the middle ground between Claude Code. But like I said, like Cowork can do like the difference between Claude Code or Chat and Cowork is like it can take actions, it can build files, it can interact with your computer. Like Chat is very limited with actually taking an action. It's like it can't go into a CRM. It can't like really create a database with like long running conversations. Like if you put in a big Excel file in chat, like it kind of breaks, right? It's not good with like heavy duty tasks. Whereas like this, you can put in like a $200,000 row Excel file, and it'll chew up through that file and crush the data. So again, like this is good and fast, and like I think we're all like have like crazy expectations on what good and fast is now. Like what you're describing is like 2 seconds versus like 5, which is like kind of nuts. But I feel it too, so I'm also kind of a defender of that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the main limitation of Cowork is command line. Because we have such a Claude Code heavy audience. And sorry for those who are new, but this conversation probably won't apply to you. But essentially, like what has happened with Claude Code is there's been like a huge movement away from MCP servers and towards command line tools. So like there's a MCP server, for those who don't know what an MCP server is, it's Model Context Protocol. It's the name for basically what is like an API for an agent to go access a database. So there's been a big move away from MCP servers and back to like command line with APIs. because like MCPs are like very brittle. So if you just like tell Claude Code how to use a command line tool, it has like the direct tools rather than like reading MCP documentation and like following their rules. Like Claude Code just like works much better with a CLI, uses like a fifth of the tokens. So there's like on Twitter at least, there's like a huge negative sentiment around MCPs and like a recursion back to command line tools as the way to extend tools to other applications to databases and all that stuff. So I know I just kind of like yapped about something that like was pretty specific to Claude Code, and I'm presenting on Cowork, but any of the Claude Code people have like feedback or notes on it all?
I'm a little technical. I think MCPs are great. It's just that I think the adoption for a lot of companies of understanding like how to actually use their API and the parameters. So instead of giving me a tool with 50 endpoints, you know how to break that up, and maybe it's 20 and other things, but it does make it better with even now it's really skills, right? It's the same thing of having a script with the API in there instead of doing all that. I mean, I know APIs at its core, so it doesn't bother me, but from a company perspective, I do think that once like later on they look at it more in depth, they can make better MCP. There is a space for it, but I just think everybody wanted to make one, and you have to wait to use cases and see how much it take up and all those other things to make a better system.
Yeah, and like what he's talking about is so like take Google Gmail for example. So they have an MCP server, and the MCP server gets you a connection into your email, and then it has like a little Python library that gives it a list of commands to standardize which with the way that an agent can interact with your inbox. So you'll have like read inbox, delete message, and it'll come up and have like a nice explanation that it injects into the prompts. So when the model goes to look at it, it's really simple and straightforward for how to use it. But for someone who's an engineer and understands APIs, you can essentially tell Claude, like, here's an API, here's the command line to delete, and then Claude can just do it in one stroke versus like going to the MCP tool, connecting, reading the documentation, and taking an action. It still works, and it's like the best way to interact. But for people that are engineers, they're like, I don't want to use more tokens by like using this MCP. I'm just going to use the API and build a skill for it to be able to use the API. So
makes sense.
that's kind of in depth, but
Sorry,
Save money.
That's the good stuff though. Once you get deep into it. So back to code. So as you can tell, this isn't really a big event space, right? This is my studio. And the problem I'm facing is Anthropic is a very small startup that is generating billions of dollars of revenue, and they don't answer my emails when I go to schedule these. They give me like a week's advance notice. And that makes it really hard to then go get sponsors and get new venues. So when I was thinking, like, what do I want to show today? I was like, okay, I'm going to use Cowork to like fundraise some money. Right, I want to get sponsorships for Claude Code so I can do bigger venues and just like have a few sponsorships where like then I have a new workshop next week. It's just like, hey, do you want to sponsor it? So I was like, I'm going to use Cowork to like put together all the materials, like look at everyone who's attended, like identify companies. And so I kind of like went halfway through this process. And then we're going to finish it together. So that is how this next part is going to go. So another quick thing is we use HTML5 for presentations.
Started to see them getting faster.
So I've like almost exclusively stopped using PowerPoints and started using HTML files at work. So like all this was generated by Cowork via HTML files, and it kind of like looks like a presentation. And then it has really cool features that you can like click in. So like you'll kind of see the power of that. But like all you would have to do to like change it, and this is a quick detour, but this is how my brain works. So I want to tell you about this. So like right at slide 11, like if I wanted change slide 11 to what I did. So it'll work through doing that, but this is kind of like how I build presentations now, and they're really fun to build because like you can get like super creative to like do little jump outs. What else did I do that? Like this one, I was like, wouldn't it be cool to like make it look like a newspaper?
So I actually, while this is not specific to color, I have used Claude, putting whatever actually in PowerPoint, and they can have it for Excel too. So I just go 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I don't know how the best way to describe it.
Say 1 foot, 1 out.
But I pointed to a Figma template, saying what I want some slides to look like, still go through the same mechanism of planning and doing the thing, regenerating,
Yeah.
sort of thing. So,
But the PowerPoints are still ugly. But I say that because so like what you see on the screen, like so on the left side is what I've already done. So I started in Claude Chat. I gave it my Gmail MCP to like I've subscribed to like all these newsletters about like events going on in LA. So I scraped my email for like what other events are going on in LA, who sponsors them. I did some research about like what their sponsorship packages are. Like built some statistics about who's attending our events, and then built out a sponsorship package. And to give you guys a view, right? Like again, like I think it's pretty cool. You can generate presentations like this. I told Claude, I was like, look through my whole conversation, and then like tell me what I did with Claude Chat, and then Claude Cowork, and like show me on the screen. So like just kind of applying this to like if you guys work as in like sales, like think about having a conversation with a customer, like pasting it into the window, and like using HTML to like build a story based on what we talked about. So like it's really like you do the work, and then Claude Code can just see that, and it took 2 seconds to generate this, where like it would take a really long time to like build a presentation to explain this. So again, like I started in Claude Chat. I said, help me brainstorm a list of companies that might want to sponsor my events. I said, perfect. You got a bunch of them. Organize these into categories and help me think about like tiers for them. So it created this markdown file. Who knows what a markdown? Who doesn't know what a markdown file is? So a markdown file is a format of a text file that makes it really easy for computers to read it. So Claude is really easily able to read it versus like if you put it in a PDF, it needs to transform the information and read it. So markdown files are the main ways that Claude Code reads. See here, so I'll just quickly show you what that looks like. Because it's super important. Markdown files is like very core to everything you'll do with Claude, because like you'll be loving markdown files. So here's the one I created, and if you look here, it kind of looks all crazy, but like this is the format that Claude Code really likes to read. So like these little dashes like designate headers and stuff, and like the dashes, like all this stuff matters that Claude can then like go through and read it really fast. And this, you can like make it look nice. This is what it looks like when you like make it look nice. So you can see like I went into Claude right here. So in Claude you have chat, and then I used it to generate that markdown file. And then it came out with these companies, and I was like, okay, like this is good enough. Like I didn't have to change anything, right? It has the name of the company, this category. So it has all these companies that now I can then reach out to for sponsorships. And I was like, perfect. Like Claude Cowork works, right? Like this works. So
excuse me, that was
that was in VS Code. Yeah, so VS Code is just like a viewer for files, and much more fun. If you don't know VS Code, it's like a window that has a bunch of tools in it, and you can view all sorts of different formatted files, Markdown being one. And so that's like my default one. So cool, I had this Markdown file, and something really important for the people that aren't heavy users, how these agents think is in folders. So every time you start a new task or like a topic, you want to create a folder, and then that will be where all the files it creates, all the code it creates, that's where everything lives. So you can see I created this file right here, sponsorships. So I immediately stuck that one right in there. So perfect, I now have a place for Claude to live, and I'll show you what that looks like. If you go in here, right, we're in Cowork. And again, Cowork is like a general purpose agent, so like you just press new task and put it in its home. Choose a different folder, go to this workshop. So now Claude is living in this folder. So we're like ready to rock and roll in this screen, but yeah, some like baseline information, like folders are really important. And just think about it like every time you start a new task, just like start a folder so you can just have a place to put all your stuff. For all the people that have used it for a while, they probably have crazy different systems on how to manage those folders and how to manage all that. But just like remember that folders are really important because right, you need like structure to feed the agent for it to do things well. Cool. So I created that folder. I then, this is kind of interesting. So like, instead of like going through my email and like searching for like AI Tinkerers, LA Grind, Nerd Stage, these are all like local events that they do like workshops just like this. So I said to Claude, I was like, look through my email and find all the events related to startups, and basically like creep on them. Right? Like, tell me what events they're throwing, who's sponsoring them. So then Claude was like, perfect. Buzzed up to my email. And within Claude Code, you have these nice connectors right here. So I have all these connectors in here. So you see it's connected to my Gmail. So you could just add, like, again, you could just copy and paste that question and ask it to make a markdown file. And then, like, what would have taken a long time to, like, kind of, like, look at all those emails and, like, consolidate information, like, spit it out in, like, 2 minutes. So now I had, like, all right, here's the companies I want to target. Here's other people doing stuff in LA and how they're doing it. And then I was like, help me build my sponsorship package. Like, what would I want sponsors to pay? And here's the registration data because what is the sponsor going to ask? Like, who's attending these events? What are their personas? So I fed it. What I did is I downloaded all of the invites. So you can see this is just an Excel file with all the people that have registered for one event. I copied all those into this sponsorship folder for workshop registrations. And then I just had Cowork to go look through it, like how many registrations I have, to like inform how much I should charge for this. So if I go here, so in here you can see like it consolidated all that information. Make this a lot bigger. Sorry, guys. So so I was very quickly able to get to a place where I had like a sponsorship package that I could like send to a sponsor, right? Like this all happened in maybe like 15 minutes. And I was like doing other stuff in the background. So like, I just like, I haven't even really looked at this yet, but like, right, it kind of has like about Claude Code, audience roles, like event track record, sponsorship tiers. Like this is relatively good. Like I feel like this is good enough for a first pass.